Why would she need a writing mentor? That makes no sense. Well, I strongly believe that any writer needs a writing mentor, and it's crazy to me to see how many beginner writers think that they can even learn how to write without having a writing mentor, let alone actually publish a book, right? So like I take my own advice very. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the Write with Chloe show. Okay, oh my goodness, today is such a meaty, juicy episode. I have quite a lot of detail for you, so just bear with me and just know that you can always just re-listen to it, or you can even reach out and get some support from me to, help you in a one-on-one capacity or through joining one of my programs. So if it's a little bit much, don't worry, you know what I mean? It's just normal. It's taken me many years to be able to sort of get all of this in my head. So even if you just take away like 1, 2, 3 key points and then discard the rest, that is totally okay. You don't have to do every single thing that I'm suggesting today in order to benefit from today's episode. So in case you don't know me, I'm Chloe. I'm an author, and my debut book, The Girls, was published in 2019 and won or got shortlisted for 3 national awards, plus had multiple agents and publishers essentially kind of pitching against each other to represent my work at a couple of different stages in the publication process. And I now help aspiring writers become published authors and enjoy, keyword, enjoy the process by writing for just 45 minutes per day, 5 days a week, and then going to the beach all weekend instead of writing. So the other day I shared a post on Instagram where I said, I wrote 25,000 words of a first draft. Again, now what? ? This is something that I have a little bit of a habit or pattern of doing. I basically just vomit out 25, sometimes even 50,000 words of a first draft. And then I realize that actually, no, I want to write about something else. Or I've realized like the deeper question beneath the question that I was writing those words about. And so I then just start over. And I've basically done this like 4 or 5 times in the 4 years since my first book came out. But enough is enough, and I want to actually finish my second book and get it published. And so when I found myself recently at this exact same point, I thought, okay, something has to change. We can't just keep doing this pattern of producing thousands of words, but never actually editing them, polishing them, finishing, combining them into a finished book. So what I'm going to share today is basically the 8 or so steps that I took to navigate this. Okay. And hopefully it will help. I'm just going to need to look at my notes a little bit today because there is quite a lot of information here. Okay. Step 1. I hired a mentor. Literally, I hired a writing mentor. I even have an agent, right? And yet I still went and hired a writing mentor. I'm a writing mentor for a living myself. And I've already published a first book that like got shortlisted, won awards, etc. So some people might be like, why would she need a writing mentor? That makes no sense. Well, I strongly believe that any writer needs a writing mentor, and it's crazy to me to see how many beginner writers think that they can even learn how to write without having a writing mentor, let alone actually publish a book, right? So like I take my own advice very seriously, right? The advice that I give is stuff that I myself am doing, and I know that it works, right? Which is why I'm giving this advice. And so yeah, I followed my own advice and I went and got a mentor, even though I have 2.5 degrees in writing and all the rest of it. So the question is, why? Honestly, I needed some external accountability. I think it's so easy to just keep running whatever pattern you're running in your writing life until you have that external accountability that's going to pull you up and say like, hey, no, this is a pattern. We need to do something different here. So I basically just took my pattern to her, took my desires to her, and asked her to hold me accountable. And so she's going to do that. Number 2 is just having someone to hold space to talk ideas through. Writing is also thinking. Yes, there is the craft of writing, and that's important. But you know what is equally as important as the craft? It's like having something to say. Like, what are you actually saying in your work? And is it coming from like the deepest parts of your body? Or is it just like surface level thoughts that you haven't actually thought through, fleshed out, had anyone hold a mirror up to or interrogate? Because I promise you the latter is far less likely to make it to publication education than the former, right? So having someone to sort of talk through all of my ideas and hold a mirror up for me is so important. And then number 3 is just having someone to basically edit my work and bring fresh eyes to my work and see what I'm not seeing from a craft point of view. The thing is, and I see this with a lot of my students, your brain lies to you about the quality of your own work, literally, over and over. Your brain lies to you about how good or shit your work is. So many times, like I cannot tell you, I've taught like over, I don't even know, 300, probably more students, right, around Australia and the world before. And so many times when a student comes to me saying, this is the best thing I've ever written, it kind of sucks. And then those students that come to me and they're like, oh, I don't know, I'm so embarrassed. It just feels so like cringy. I don't want to share this. And then I read what they've written and it's like breathtakingly beautiful. We are just not the best assessors of the quality of our own work. And this is why having a writing mentor is so important. So that's the first thing I did. I got a writing mentor and now I'm meeting with her every fortnight and I'm going to actually finish my second book. The second thing I did was get really clear on what the central question of my work is. A lot of people think that writing is something where we give statements and answers and like educate other people or take them on a ride. And whilst that's true, those things are actually just a byproduct of like educating yourself and taking yourself on a journey. And when we make that the focus, like taking myself on a journey, educating myself about a thing, sitting with my own most central questions, and just trust that the sort of education of others and the moving others emotionally just will happen as an automatic byproduct, the work becomes so much more nuanced and deep and meaningful, as opposed to like helping or entertaining others the starting point, right? So I got really clear, like, what is the central question that is eating me alive in my life right now? And how is my writing like circling around that question, unpacking that question, serving that question? Because ultimately, memoir is curation in service of a central question. Memoir is not everything that ever happened to me in my entire life. No, it's not. It's like, this is the theme or the central question that I'm writing about, and then I'm going to pluck out the events that are related to that central question I'm thinking through. And fiction is no different. You just replace like everything that happened in my life, the phrase, everything that happened in my characters' lives, right? Or the thing that's eating me alive, you replace with the thing that's eating my characters alive. But if we want to produce work that is nuanced and complex and meaningful, we have to have that central question for either fiction or memoir. So I got clear on what that was in my work. Thirdly, I wrote out a list of all the scenes that I have already. And then I divided them into 8 categories with 10 scenes in each. Writing a book is a big thing, right? It can feel overwhelming and messy and confusing and everything just melts together. But what if you thought about the reality that an average book is 80,000 words and an average scene, at least the ones that I write, are 1,000 words. And so all you need to do is write 8 lots of 10 scenes with 1,000 words each, right? So 8 lots of 10 interactions that are 1,000 words each. That's it. It's literally it. It just makes it so much more manageable, both in terms of like organizing things by like theme, but also by like word count, and then structuring, and then seeing where you're up to, keeping track of things. And then all you've got to focus on each day is like, okay, no, I'm just writing this 1,000 words, or I'm just editing this 1,000 words. I'm not writing a book. I'm certainly not editing a whole book today. I'm just writing or editing 1,000 words or one interaction. That's it. So it becomes much more manageable. And then obviously we just need to make sure those 80 interactions are sort of circling around a central theme, i.e. your central question, just basically attacking it all from different angles. The fourth step I took was I looked then at which categories, because I organized my 8 categories by theme, 10 scenes each in 8 categories organized by theme. I looked at which categories had gaps and which were already full. And then for the ones that had gaps, I just filled in, like came up with a little title or idea for a scene that I wanted to write, and then just filled them in with the titles of each. So then all of my 8 categories were full with 10 little ideas or already written scenes. Then number 5, I set up my Scrivener, which is writing software. You can Google Scrivener if you're not familiar with it, but it's basically writing software that helps you organize all of your writing and drafts and edits and all this kind of stuff into different scenes and folders and subfolders so you can keep track of things. So I set my Scrivener up using color there's like a color coding function that you can do. And I set it up so that I had 4 different colors, and then I went through and labeled or highlighted each scene a different color depending on which one they fit into. So the 4 colors that I used were red for to write, as in I had the title or the idea but I hadn't actually written anything. I made them red. And then for all of the scenes that I needed to just do a solo edit on my own, I made orange. And then for any of the scenes that I wanted to take to my mentor and get her feedback on, I made green. And then for any scenes that I'd already got feedback from my editor but hadn't yet implemented those edits on, I made blue. And then for any scenes that had already gone through that whole process, so being written, had a solo edit done, then given to my editor for feedback, and then I'd actually implemented that feedback, so like done for this draft, I made purple. And so then I ended up with like an outline or a corkboard of all of these 8 categories with 10 scenes each, all in different colors, and I could see the percentage of red, purple to blue to blah blah blah. And it just helped me get a sense of like my progress. Like, yes, I can see by how much is in red that I've still got a way to go, but I can also see by how much is in like blue or purple that I've actually made some good progress already. Then step 6, I basically made a plan to write all of the scenes that I'd highlighted red. So they're ones where I just had the title and the idea but I hadn't written. I made a plan in my diary to write a first draft of all of the scenes that were currently red. And the way that I did this was basically allocate 1 scene to 2 days in my diary. Not 1 day. We don't want to risk setting ourselves up for disappointment and falling behind, and you know how these things work, right? Things take longer than our brain tries to convince us they will. So 1 scene I allocated to 2 days in my diary. Then I got a really beautiful outline of how many weeks it was going to take me to finish writing all of the first draft missing pieces, leaving the weekends off, of course, to take a break. Then once I finish that, what I'll do is I'll do 2 things. Firstly, I'll send that whole document to my editor, my mentor, and say, hey, I'd love your feedback. Can you read through this? Then while she is obviously taking some time to do that and provide her comments, I'm going to turn the whole thing into an audio track, which you can just do on your laptop using Microsoft Word. They have a function, turn it into an audio track. And then I just send that track to my phone. And then I just go for long walks on the beach, or maybe if you've like long rides in the car, you can do it there also, or even while you're washing the dishes, whatever it is. And just listen to the audio track and just let it float over you, right? Not to sort of solve anything or to pick out nitty-gritty missing pieces or anything like that, but just to let the whole thing wash over you and get like the feeling, the vibe. You know, what is the central question? Do I feel like I'm fully covering it from all angles? Are there any like massive gaps that stand out to me? So letting go of all the small things, small details, that's for a later edit. But are there any massive gaps that stand out to me, right? Maybe you take a few notes. Mostly it's just listening and letting it wash over you. And then go back to the drawing board and start to get ready for the next draft, right? You'll get feedback. Well, I will get my feedback from my mentor. I'll have some notes from when I listen to the full audio track, and then it will be time to start the next round of edits, which will be another whole process on its own that I won't go into in this episode, right? But editing happens in layers, right? We're doing these processes multiple times. And this is just one form of editing, right? I haven't even gone into the nitty-gritty of how I would edit a single scene, right? Like I have like a 4-step process that I do on repeat for even editing a single scene, making sure it's showing, not telling, in singular, not plural, has the right percentage of internal, external, and setting, all of these things, right? This is not what I just gave you today, like the only and the ultimate editing process. This is one of several editing processes that I use. But hopefully it might help you come up with some strategies as you start to design your own editing process. Okay, you might want to listen to this episode again a second time. There was a lot of information in that episode, but otherwise, if you would like some support, if you would like someone to give you feedback on your own writing and provide some mentoring, this is something that I do for a living, so you can reach out. On Instagram, I'm at write_with_Chloe. I'll pop the link below as well. Yeah, reach out, tell me what you're working on, and I can let you know how I might be able to help you. Even if you're just writing a first draft, or if you want help actually editing because you've already finished a first draft, wherever you're up to, I'm sure I can help you out. And if you've learned anything from today's episode, I would love it if you could write me a review if you're listening as a podcast, or drop a comment below if you're listening on YouTube. And lastly, if you know anyone that is struggling with their writing or wants to become a writer, writer or keeps talking about this like idea they have to one day be a writer. I would love it if you could share this episode with them. All right, sending love. And lastly, if you haven't already, you can check out my free resource below, how to write 10,000 words in 30 days. You can sign up below and I will send you my free 3-part video email sequence explaining how to do that. Sending love and see you next episode.